I remember the first time that I opened up the default slicing preset in Ableton and I couldn't believe that there wasn't already a knob to control the pitch of the sample. Never again. I'm gonna show you the way to get your preset to show up in the default slice menu so you can have control set up the way that you like. One-time setup, benefit forever. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are in Ableton. We're gonna start by pressing Command-Shift-T to make a new MIDI track. So then we'll hit Command-F and type in drum rack, and then press Enter twice to drop it onto the MIDI track. Next, go ahead and grab a sampler from the browser and then drag it onto one of the pads. Let's type in sampler, and then we'll just drag it onto C1, for example. Open up the macro controls with this tiny little button here on the top left of the drum rack window. Some nice controls to have access to when you're sampling with drum rack are attack, decay, sustain, and release. So right-click the attack knob and select Map to Macro 1. Then put decay, sustain, and release on macros 2, 3, and 4. So we're gonna go right click, put that macro 2, macro 3, and macro 4. So let's rename these so that they're simpler. Let's also take this opportunity to add a little bit of color to each of these because I read somewhere that your brain is faster at recognizing color than it is recognizing words. So I always take that into consideration when I'm doing my organization. Now let's also make use of the rest of these macros by using the same process to assign, let's say the filter cutoff, we will assign to macro 5. We'll put spread on 6 here, and then we'll put the velocity on macro 7. And then finally, we'll put the pitch or transposition on macro 8. And then just rename these as you see fit. And of course you can put any parameters that you want on each of these macros. This is just what I like to do. So the next important thing we need to do is set the minimum and maximum values for the controls to make them more user-friendly. Like for example, on this attack, it doesn't make sense for it to go all the way up to 20 seconds. I'd like for the maximum to be somewhere around 1 second, for example. So what we need to do is click on map here, and then we're gonna change the maximum. So here we are on attack, and we're gonna change the maximum to 1 second. Oops, 1000 milliseconds is what it is, 1 second. Okay, and now I'm just gonna take a second to do the rest of these. Okay, so important things before we permanently save the preset. If you don't want your samples overlapping each other, just head over to the left side and then click Show Hide Chain List right here, these little lines here. And then click the little button that says IO and change the drop down under choke to be 1. No samples in the same choke group can be played at the exact same time. If you don't want your samples to default to looping, go to the sample tab here and then just click loop to turn that off. Oh, and whatever value you leave your macros at will become the default value every time you open the preset. So just make sure that you're happy with where they are. For example, in attack here, I want my default attack to be 2 milliseconds, not 13.9, it's a little too slow. And then release, I want it to be all the way up because when I hit a note, like even staccato or a sample chop, for example, I want it to play all the way through, even if I just press it for, you know, 1/10 of a second or whatever. So now it is time to save our preset, the moment that we have all been waiting for. So in order to do that, you just need to go to user library, the human icon or whatever that is, and then go to defaults, slicing, and then just go ahead and drag your drum rack into the slicing folder and it'll prompt you for a name. So I'm gonna call it my go-to. So now when you drag in an audio sample, and you right click and go to slice to new MIDI track, there is your new preset. Now that we've got this set up, it makes your sampling workflow a lot more efficient because you can control certain parameters of each slice all at once. And you don't have to individually add in a bunch of effects to the drum rack every time you sample. The reason why these presets are awesome is because sometimes with sampling, you don't know exactly how you want it to sound. It's about exploring different ways of warping and then latching onto something that you like. And some real magic happens in music when you just leave things to chance and let the computer work for you. So let's give that a shot right now. Now, there's a little button at the top of the rack that says RAND, standing for randomize. So if we click that, we can actually slice preset, which is awesome. almost like a future bass kind of thing. And this is all just from one sample and just 3 randomized clicks. And this is one of the best parts about setting up different slice presets, is that it makes it so easy to be creative, and that's what it's all about. One other thing that you can do with these macros on your slice presets is that you can automate each of the parameters as well to give yourself even more options. So let's see. Let's say we're working with that. We could, let's say, automate the high cut and just make it a little more interesting. Or we could do the pitch too, let's try that. And have it do kind of a little tape drop thing here at the end. And of course, we can also change the envelopes of everything all at once as well. So there's a lot of different ways that we can be creative with this process. If you like this video, consider giving it a like and subscribing, hit that bell for notifications, and have fun sampling. We'll see you in the next one.